Welcome to Talkin' Mets with Rob. Subscribe to the channel for all your New York Mets in-game live, pre-game, post-game, roundtable podcast, and all the breaking news for our New York Mets. Enjoy the show and let's
meet the Mets. Meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the METS Mets of New York town. Oh, the butcher and the baker and the people on the streets, where do they go? To meet the Mets! Oh, they're hollering, they're cheering, and they're jumping in their seats. Where do they go? To meet the Mets! All the fans are true to the orange and blue, so hurry up and come on down, 'cause we got ourselves a ballpark, the Mets of New York town. Give 'em a yell! Give 'em a hand! And let 'em know you're rooting in the stand. Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the METS Mets of New York town, of New York town.
You are now watching the Amazing Mets PreGame Show with your hosts, Rob and CP.
Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets!
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to the Amazing Mets PreGame Show right here on the channel, on X, and of course on Twitch. As I'm running solo today on the pregame show because my co-host, my buddy, the man that you usually see on the pregame, postgame with me, Chris, is heading and in Milwaukee right now to watch some Met games and hopefully a few Mets wins. And hopefully he is celebrating in the great state of Wisconsin for a playoff berth for our New York Mets. So hopefully everything is good with Chris. I know he's in the chat, said he just touched down in Milwaukee as he's getting off the plane. So he's prime and ready to go with very much assuming a lot of Met fans heading down to Milwaukee to check out the final 3 games, technically of the regular season, unless Monday games are that important. And then, well, we got to worry about those games. But right now, we worry about Friday, September 27th. And happy Friday to everybody. And listen, guys, we had a couple of days off. Tuesday wasn't pretty for us Mets in Atlanta. Wednesday and Thursday, we got Lindor more healthy. We got everybody rested. The bullpen, the starters, the lineup, Lindor, everybody got a tremendous amount of rest as they were off on Monday. They were off on Wednesday, off on Thursday. So you had 3 days off over this whole week. And it's exciting because the Mets still have their own destiny in their hands, right? There's nothing that could knock us out of the playoffs this weekend, right? We want the best outcomes possible for our Mets. If they win 2 out of 3, you just need either the Braves to get swept or the Diamondbacks to lose 2 out of 3 and the Mets are in the playoffs, right? There's other scenarios. The Mets sweep, Diamondbacks lose 1 game. A lot of scenarios. We went over it over the last couple of shows. JJ, how are you doing, buddy? Frank, the reason why I think they're not going to use Lindor as the DH, because of the fact that if Lindor can't go, like say if he's playing the DH and he can't make the entire game for whatever reason, the back flares up, you're going to lose somebody in this lineup. And the reason why Acuna is on the bench is because, yeah, you got Eddie Alvarez. You want Acuna just in case to fill in for Francisco Lindor at shortstop and in his spot in the lineup, just in case. Because if Lindor is not feeling right by the second inning, Eddie Alvarez is filling in. If Acuna is playing, say, DH, right? Or if Lindor is DHing and Acuna is playing shortstop, you're trying to avoid Eddie Alvarez playing an extended amount of the game in Lindor's spot. So worst case scenario, if Lindor can't go past the 4th inning, at least you have Acuna to fill his spot at shortstop and in the lineup. If Acuna is playing as the DH, or if Lindor is the DH and Acuna is the shortstop, you're filling in Eddie Alvarez in that spot. And I think the Mets and Mendoza is trying to avoid putting a guy who is not better than either of those guys in the lineup if Lindor has to come out of the ballgame. So they're just protecting a player that you might need if Lindor can't go, because nobody knows if Lindor can go an entire game, right? He hasn't played in almost 2 weeks, right? There's no guarantee that he can get through 9 innings right now. We don't know that, especially playing shortstop, right? We can all assume with all the rest, with all the treatment, right? He was supposed to be in the lineup on Wednesday. So who knows, right? Nobody really knows. It's a lower back. Lower backs are tricky regardless if there's no major damage. We all talked about it till the cows come home. The fact is, we don't know if Lindor can go through an entire ball game, right? As much as we want him in the lineup, this is also a test to see if he can do it. Like, that's the other issue, right? Now, if the Mets make the playoffs and it turns out that Lindor just can't play the field 9 innings and, throughout the entire game, maybe you just DH him. But that hurts you overall, because what if Martinez figures it out over these next 3 to 5 games, depending on how many games we actually play, right? You want Martinez in the lineup as well. So, well, it's a situation that we can talk about once and if we clinch the playoffs, then we can have that conversation. But I want to see Lindor get through 9 innings healthy. Now, I don't know if I can expect anything offensively from Lindor right now. He's been out for 2 weeks. He hasn't really seen real live pitching in a game in 2 weeks. There's no way I can confidently say this guy is gonna just take a bat after not playing for 2 weeks and be MVP Lindor. I don't even know if he can be above average Lindor. I don't know this. As much as I want him to be MVP Lindor and even above average Lindor, nobody really knows. So, it's frustrating because I truly believe that if Lindor was playing, the Mets have done a really good job, right? I mean, they had a 6-1 homestand without Lindor. You lose 1 game. That 1 game could have mattered if we would have went 7-0, right? Who knows what would have been the outcome right now? Maybe the Mets would have a bigger lead, so it sucks, but you have to be careful with Lindor. And I think leaving Acuna on the bench and not either playing him a shortstop, DH and Lindor, is that here's the other thing. Why did we get JD Martinez? Right? Why did we wait until basically spring training to get JD Martinez? Why? because he was supposed to be that extra bat, that needed bat in this lineup. Now, nobody knew prior to the season that Vientos was going to even be a part of this team and doing what he's doing, right? We didn't know Iglesias was even going to be this good or even on this team, right? Jesse Winker wasn't on this team, right? Alvarez, we were expecting him to have a really good year, but he's having a down year, right? We didn't know if Beta was going to be as good or Taylor was going to be as good, right? JD Martinez was supposed to be one of those guys. And Mendoza, and I'm okay with this because there is no scenario where I think JD Martinez is sitting on the bench in the postseason and the Mets are going to be successful. I'm being dead serious and 100% honest with you guys. JD Martinez is a guy who, and this is why he's so frustrated, because if he finds it, he knows he can go on a run of 2 weeks just going absolutely crazy. And that's what I think Mendoza is expecting. Now, Martinez hasn't played a lot at all. And I think Mendoza is trying to just get him out there after not really playing. He's probably doing a ton of work in the cages, trying to figure something out where he can be at least somewhat close to the hitter we think he can be, or he was when he was actually hitting well. That's it. Just and give him, and he's not batting fifth. He's batting seventh. What has Mendoza done this whole time with a lot of the guys not named Nimmo or Alonso? When it was Vientos, when it was McNeil, right? Alvarez, Bader. When these guys are not hitting, you get moved down to the 6th, 7th, 8th spot in the lineup. And that's what he's doing with JD Martinez, right? He's in the bottom of the lineup. He's in front of Winker and he's behind Winker and in front of Alvarez, right? Alvarez has been looking better with the bat. Winker is another one who's been struggling. That's another guy you want to get going because he's going to be the first guy off your bench with a right-hander coming in the game at any moment late in a ball game. You know, the reason why Winker's playing today is because of the right-hander in Montas. So, again, there's a lot to look into when it comes to Francisco Lindor. Nobody knows. Look, it's a great sign that he's in the lineup, right? He got 2 extra days rest that he probably thought he wasn't going to get, or most people thought at least Wednesday he would be in the lineup and the game might have been played, right? He got 2 extra days off, including basically all day today until tonight. So we're hoping that all that rest, all that treatment gets Lindor through a lineup. But here's the thing. Say if he does get through the lineup today, regardless of what he does at the plate, even if he goes 0 for 4, right? I don't expect a lot from Lindor, even though it wouldn't shock me if he does some damage because he's just been that good this year. But if he goes 0 for 4, doesn't look good at the plate, I'm not taking that as he's hurt. I'm taking that as he hasn't played in 2 weeks, right? But it's not really about today that I'm concerned about. It's can he play after a 9-inning game and play tomorrow as well, right? That's the other issue, right? If you ever had back pain, right, you feel great one day. The next day you wake up, you can barely move. That's the concerning part, especially when you've done a lot the prior day. Say if you did a lot of walking, you worked a long shift and you felt great. The next day could be a bad day. So that's the problem that we have to find out with Lindor. We don't know that yet. We really don't know, right? You could run around all you want. You could take all the batting practice you want. But when you're playing a 9-inning game, you can't go, in the clubhouse for 2 innings and get treatment like he probably was after batting practice and then go back out there and play take grounders, right? You can't do that while you're in a game unless you're coming out of the ball game. So we don't know if he can get through 9 innings. We don't know if he can come back tomorrow after 9 innings. And how good will he be in this lineup? Because as much as most people finally find to love Lindor and realize how important he is to this team, you also can't let him be in this lineup and hurt the team at the same time. If he is not at least above average Francisco Lindor and his defense isn't at the par we expect, you can't leave him in the ballgame. It's just that simple. You're going to have to put Acuna in. And that is the situation that I'm going to be looking at. Now, everybody, I saw it on X. I'm in like 30 group chats with a bunch of Met fans. Everybody's like, oh, Lindor's in the lineup. That's great. Is it? We don't know. In our warped minds, in our alternate reality, Lindor in the lineup means good sign. The only good sign of this is that he believes he can go and he's got cleared by the medical staff. That's it. But Lindor even told you in his last interview a couple of days ago that he doesn't know. He's going to play in pain. But it's one wrong move, one wrong swing. I remember having back pain while I was playing many years ago. It's not when you hit the ball or where you run or where you bend down. It's when you're trying to swing at a pitch and you miss it completely. And you pull off, or you swing as hard as you can because you think a fastball's coming, and then an 82 miles an hour changeup comes and you're way out in front. That's where it really hurts. And I've done that before, and that is tough. Yeah, Chris, and again, the reason why I don't think they're going to DH, I don't know if you heard Chris, but the reason why I don't think they're going to DH Lindor is the fact that you have to play Acuna at shortstop in that case, right? Say if Lindor can't go, right? Lindor would be batting leadoff regardless if he's shortstop or DH. If he's DHing and he can't go, and say he comes out in the fourth inning, Eddie Alvarez is your leadoff hitter at DH for the rest of the game. I think that's the issue that Mendoza doesn't want to find himself in. At least in this case, as much as we want Acuna in the lineup, it's kind of a very good backup plan if Lindor can't go as the shortstop or the DH situation. You can throw Acuna right in there, and we can play the shortstop position. We can be the leadoff guy. He can do things with the bat. That's what I think that you're not losing any defense with Eddie Alvarez at shortstop, but you're losing a possibly big bat with an under 200 Eddie Alvarez. And I think that's the issue that Mendoza is trying to avoid, at least at this moment. I mean, if Lindor looks good and he's healthy through this 9-inning game and he feels good tomorrow, then I'm putting Acuna in the lineup in game 2. Because if Lindor can show me he can bounce back after a 9-inning game, look good, regardless of his stat line, of his box score or anything like that, how many hits he has, that doesn't matter, right? Obviously, it matters in the game. But if he goes 0 for 4, you're going to sit him tomorrow because he might not be doing well? No. It could just because he hasn't seen live pitching in 2 weeks, real live pitching. Here's the key, and you know what? JB just said it. He took the words right out of my mouth. What's the best case scenario? The Mets score a ton of runs early. You take Lindor out of the lineup, right? You score 5, 6, 7 runs, and it's the 5th inning. I wouldn't be shocked if Mendoza takes out Lindor to put Acuna in or Eddie Alvarez, right? And that's what I talked about yesterday on the show. The Mets need to score early in this ball game, not only for their mental health and their mental capacity and their mental break away from the Braves, but you're not only giving a little bit of a mental break to yourself. You give Mania a lead, and on top of that, you don't give any incentive for the Milwaukee Brewers to try to come back in a ball game and try to use some of their bullpen arms, their better bullpen arms, or even leave their starters in longer than they should have, right? Because I wouldn't be shocked. And Murphy, the manager of the Brewers, talked about this. I don't know if anybody watched their games over the last couple of days, but he talked about not extending his main guys, much at all in the series. So the easier way to let that decision be made as quickly as possible for the Brewers is score early. Score early and often. And if you have a 5-6 run lead, I'm comfortable taking Lindor out in the 5th inning. Get him off his feet. Don't mess around. The last thing you need is you're winning by, you're blowing the Brewers out and Lindor gets hurt or he tweaks his back and now he's out the rest of the series, if not longer. So the fact is, if we can actually score early, it just benefits us as an entire team. Just because I'm not sure where this mental part of the team is right now. I don't. Because they didn't play a series against the Braves. They played one game. They got embarrassed. Let's be honest about that. That was an embarrassing performance. They didn't show up. They played scared. It was a lifeless performance. Severino is questioned now because of big game situations. It's not a very good confidence booster with a couple of days off thinking about that going into Milwaukee. Now, they might surprise me because they've done it all year. They've bounced back after bad losses. But have they bounced back after losing to the Braves, even though it's one game, in Atlanta? While the games in Atlanta on Monday are hovering over their heads right now like a dark cloud. That's where I'm concerned. I don't know where they are mentally. And that scares me because I think if you're not really talking about the mental part of this game right now, I think the Mets will be fine. But we all know on Tuesday, it wasn't because of their physical ability. That was completely all mental. That was Severino on the mound. Guarantee you he was thinking about his big game performances in his lifetime, in his baseball history. The Mets, even though most of these guys weren't there in 2022, the main guys were, the core guys, so you already know they're thinking about it. Even though those guys weren't thinking about it or weren't there in 2022, all the questions were asked before the Brave series and right when the game started on Tuesday. There was questions to the players, all the players, about 2022 and all the Braves in your head. So it's already on their minds. And I'm sorry, the worst thing that you can do as a baseball player, and if you ever played baseball before, is going into a game overthinking everything. Oh, if I don't get this hit, what's going to happen? Oh, if I don't make this catch, what's going to happen? Right? Because you've seen it. The Mets were making right away. Iglesias leading off. He bounces the ball in front of the plate and the ball hits him. 1 out. That was already a scenario that usually never happens. It happened right in the beginning of the game in Atlanta against the Braves. Then Acuna couldn't make that double play ball. Right? It didn't hurt us that quickly, but that's everything. Little things like that start to get to a team, especially the guys who've been there before, like, oh, here we go again. Right? If we played Milwaukee on Tuesday and that happened, I don't think anybody would think about, oh, here we go again. Because that is not the case. Now, the fact is, the Mets have not played well in their history in Milwaukee against the Brewers. They've been very bad against the Brewers in Milwaukee. So, again, who knows if this matters? I'm not going to tell you it is. I do know that the mental part against the Braves in Atlanta matter. That stuff matters. And until they do it, who knows? But again, the Braves are out of my mind right now. Now, I can't say the same thing for the Mets team, the players. I don't know. But they need to be focusing just on the Brewers because those Monday games might not matter to the New York Mets. And we gone over the scenarios. Just watch Mets Talk Live. Watch Chris's show yesterday as well. We kind of go in every freaking direction to try to give you almost every scenario. Thank God SNY finally brought it up and gave all the scenarios. If you get swept, if you win one game, if you win 2 games, you sweep, all that craziness, it's insane. But the fact is they need to worry about this series and this series alone. Because this weekend series could be your clincher, right? Best case scenario is to sweep, right? That is the scenario all of us want. You sweep the Brewers, unless the Diamondbacks sweep and the Braves sweep, then you're like, Jesus, now we really got to play Monday and see what happens. But in that case, you would only have to win one of the games on Monday because you'll have the tiebreaker against Arizona. And the seeding is the seeding, right? Either you're going to go to the West Coast to play San Diego, or you're going to, stay in Milwaukee to play Milwaukee, or, travel back to Milwaukee to play Milwaukee in the wild card round. So let me just check the comments really quick. I know, Chris, my Cowboys did beat the Giants. And I got to say, nobody really played well yesterday in that Thursday night game. I mean, if the Cowboys weren't playing the Giants, the Cowboys probably would have lost. Right? The Giants shot themselves in the foot. They should have won that game, to be quite honest. The Giants can't score touchdowns. It's amazing to me. But yeah, well, JB, yeah, I know we all be less confused, but here's one thing for sure. If the Mets take care of business, there's a pretty good chance the Mets are going to clinch by the weekend, the end of the weekend, right? 2 out of 3, Mets win. Diamondbacks lose 2 out of 3, the Mets are in. Regardless of if you want the 2nd seed or the 3rd seed, honestly, I don't care who we play. I just don't feel like the Mets traveling all over the freaking place. Like, I don't want the Mets to travel from Milwaukee on Sunday to Atlanta, play 2, leave, get to where, San Diego sometime late at night on Monday and got to play probably a 3-4 o'clock game on Tuesday, because they might be the early game on Tuesday. We don't know the times yet, but sometimes the National League and the American League wildcard games, one's at night and one's during the day. So, and because it's a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I don't know if they might do it all night games. I haven't really seen the times. You guys can check that if you want, but I don't think they put the times yet. I might be wrong, but they're all night games still. They're still basically getting to San Diego late at night, even though there's a 3-hour difference, right? They got to get adjusted to the time differential. It's earlier. Like, it's crazy. Yeah, Chris, that would be the perfect scenario too. So that is where it's at right now. So it is confusing, but the Mets need to take care of business. They're not chasing anybody. Everybody's chasing them. The Diamondbacks are chasing us, and the Braves are chasing us. We tend to forget that, right? No, not a lot of people are talking about this. A lot of Met fans, if you hear them on Sports Talk Radio, on X, social media, it sounds, the way the Met fans are talking is like we're chasing the Diamondbacks and the Braves, which is not the case. We are getting chased by the Braves and the Diamondbacks. We are in the number 2 spot of the wild card right now. The season ended today. We're going to San Diego, right? So a lot of people tend to forget that and are like talking doomsday when that even hasn't been the case yet, right? Everybody, the Mets, the Arizona Diamondbacks, and the Braves could have terrible weekend series. They can all lose 2 out of 3, and we're playing on the Braves and Mets are playing on Monday, basically both fighting for our lives. Now, that is a shitty scenario because I don't feel like going to Atlanta and having to win 2 games. I just don't want to deal with that, right? That might not be the case, though, right? Because the issue is the Mets would only have to win 1 game, even if that's the case, right? If the Mets, put it this way, if the Mets and the Diamondbacks lose 2 out of 3, the Mets only have to win 1 game on Monday because they can only have the same record if they win one of those games. They can't lose both. They lose both, they're out of the playoffs. So it's crazy. Yeah, I agree, guys. Chris just said it, and I'm going to bring up that comment. Absolutely. I'm really happy this pregame has been growing, and I agree 100% with Chris. And by the way, 1,000 subscribers. He's over. Let's go, guys. Good job, guys. Good job helping Chris out, getting him to 1,000 subs. He deserves it. He works his ass off, and he knows his stuff. And you guys know, I don't have to tell you this. We talked about doing a pregame, and it was a great idea. We started it up on opening day. I was in my car at Citi Field parking lot doing the pregame for the first time before I moved to down south. So absolutely, the pregames have been growing, and it's all because of you guys. And look, the pregames are a difficult one for a lot of people. We understood that, right? We know that the post-game shows are where all the fuss is about, win or lose, right? But there wasn't a pre-game show on YouTube for Mets creators, right? We wanted to bring that to you. And we thought, it took time, which it should have been expected. Maybe I got ahead of myself a little bit, thinking that it would be pretty big, that a lot of people want to talk about the game prior. But again, people, a lot of the times they're doing it at 5:30, 5:15, 6 o'clock. People are coming from work, still at work, trying to, set their family up for the night before they watch the game. So, we know you guys are busy. It's a rough time to, sit down or even listen to us during a pregame because it's in a crazy time. A lot of people are in rush hour traffic right now. So, yeah. It's amazing. This has grown, right? We were getting good numbers, but not to the numbers that we were getting. Now, could this be the effect of the Mets playing better? Sure. But it's also because you guys actually won't take the time out of your day to listen to us fools talk about the Mets, right? This is our therapy session as well, right? Just because, you guys are here, you're listening, you're talking in the chat amongst yourselves. This is therapy for us too, right? I mean, if I wasn't doing this, I can assure you, nobody wants to hear where I'm at right now. Nobody wants to hear my girl, anybody. Nobody wants to hear me complain about the Mets, right? I can do it here, right? It's a safe space, even though we get on each other a lot and we might disagree, but this is a safe place. And, we couldn't wait until Ken complained about the lineup. And, if Ken would have came earlier, he would have heard. He probably did. He just didn't say nothing. But Ken, you want these bats to get going. I'm sick and tired of people bitching about the lineup when, I'm sorry, the Mets aren't going anywhere if they make the postseason if JD Martinez is not hitting. So you got to get JD Martinez going. And he's not batting fifth. If he was batting fifth or third or sixth, I'd be bitching. But he's batting seventh. Where has Mendoza put struggling guys in the lineup besides Nimmo and Anzo? Everybody else he's put in the sixth spot or lower. You can't keep on burying the guys that are not playing well because JD Martinez is your starting DH. Jesse Winker, according to a hell of a lot of Met fans, is Ken Griffey Jr. and should be playing, right? Which I never thought he should be an everyday guy. But Jesse Winker is going to be our first guy off the bench in big spots with a righty on the mound the rest of the season and in the postseason if the Mets make it. JD Martinez, I am telling you this right now, guys. Game 1 of the postseason game, if the Mets make it, JD Martinez is going to be in the lineup. You got JD Martinez for this specifically. Who do you want DHing? Don't give me Acuna, because that does not make sense with Lindor in the lineup. Because if Acuna is DHing, or Lindor is DHing, Acuna is playing shortstop. If Lindor can't get through 9 innings, Eddie Alvarez is going to play shortstop. Or is going to play DH, is going to be your DH. Unless you just put Martinez in the DH, and you're going to see JD Martinez anyway. Or Jesse Winker anyway. Yeah, okay, Ken, but you could say that about anybody. Right? You could say that about anybody. Why is Vientos in the lineup? Right? The other day, you were bitching about Vientos, who was 3 for his last 40. But he started to hit a little bit more. You got to get these guys going who are a big part of this lineup. I just don't understand. You can't get that through your head. And this is a lot of people. You got to stop. JD Martinez can't get going sitting on the bench. No, but he was. And you didn't want him in the lineup. Right? That's the issue. Right? Vientos couldn't get going and playing better offensively if he wasn't playing. That's the issue. JD Martinez hasn't played almost at all over these last 2 weeks. He's been sitting a lot. He's clearly been working out. You got to get JD Martinez going. I'm sorry. This team is not going to do enough in the postseason without JD Martinez. You didn't sign JD Martinez to be a bench bat. I'm sorry. You're just losing the whole aspect of why this guy is here. No. Vientos didn't go through a little slump. That is completely wrong. 3 for 38 is not a little slump. That is over a week of games. That is not a little slump. That was a slump that actually hurt this team. Let's make no mistake about it. So did you want Vientos not in the lineup at all? Because every time a guy's slumping, you don't want the guy in the lineup at all, right? To be honest, I'd rather bench Alonso. But nobody's stupid enough to do that. Because it takes one swing in the bat to get a guy like Alonso and JD Martinez. Specifically JD Martinez. I don't know about Alonso. Because Alonso's had one game before and then looked stupid after that. So, yeah, Ken, of course I want the Mets to win. But, I just don't understand. Who did you want in this spot? I'm just curious. Because Winker's playing right field and Martinez is DH, right? You probably want Acuna in the lineup, and I'm going to tell you you're an idiot. Because if you were here earlier, you would understand why Acuna is not in the lineup while Lindor is playing shortstop. Because at least today, going forward, we'll figure that out. But if Lindor can't get through 9 innings, Marte DH. Marte has been in a bad slump. He hasn't played well either. So you want Marte DH. You see that? Okay. It's not a terrible idea. But again, here's the problem. You want to bury a guy on the bench because they haven't been performing. Yet JD Martinez is a big part of this lineup. As much as you don't care to think that, he is. He is not a bench piece. Hector, I agree. Vientos deserves to play through his slump. But Ken was the one that didn't want Vientos in the lineup at all 2 weeks ago when he was in that big slump. And the thing with Martinez, we did not sign Martinez to just sit him on the bench and just let him soak and just let him sit there and collecting dust. You got to get this guy going. Now, if he doesn't look good today, I would probably question to think about him going forward. But you got to give him an opportunity. He hasn't played a lot in 2 weeks. He might have played 3 games in like a week and a half. You gotta give these guys a chance to break out of it. Because you're gonna tell me if JD Martinez breaks out of it and plays well, I damn sure want him in the lineup. Yeah, he has not played, but you also had enough time to still give him chances to play during the season, the rest of the season. I just don't understand. You're just going to sit JD Martinez down and not play him at all. Yet, he's going to come up in a big spot. Do you want a guy ice cold on the bench who hasn't been hitting, trying to get a big hit in the ballgame? Because that's the scenario you want, Ken. You want him to sit on the bench. You don't want him. Let's say Marte DHs. There's going to be a spot in the 6th inning or the 7th inning where Mendoza is going to put JD Martinez in a big spot late in the ballgame. So you want him ice cold coming up in the 7th inning in a big spot. No, Ken, I'm not going to apologize to you because you're dead wrong. And everybody in the chat doesn't agree with you either because you're wrong. But if he goes 0 for 4, we have a conversation. The guy has not played. So to tell me that he's still not going to hit is idiotic on your part. You want Marte, who hasn't been that much better, by the way. Right? I'd rather have Marte playing right field over Winker, but I understand why Winker is in the lineup because there's a righty on the mound and you need Winker going because he's going to be your first bat off the bench in big games when there's a righty on the mound late in the ball game. Similar to JD Martinez. If you want to bench JD Martinez, the first lefty that comes out of that bullpen late in the ball game, especially if it's probably between the sixth and ninth spot in the lineup, you might DH JD Martinez. You might hit JD Martinez, pinch hit him in that spot. You want all those guys to be cold coming into the game. That's so stupid. Yeah, I agree, Hector, but we've nailed him to the bench for a while. He hasn't played much at all. He's played like one game every like 3. Right? I'm not saying to play JD Martinez this whole entire series, but he hasn't played much at all. Give the guy a chance to prove something. What if he goes 3 for 4 today with a couple of RBIs? In Ken's scenario, you probably want to sit him because, he hasn't been good. He's good for one game, right? That's the issue. Again, but you can say that about a lot of guys. Alonso should be sitting then. In your scenario, Alonso should sit. Alvarez, you wanted to sit him 3 weeks ago when he wasn't doing nothing. You didn't even want Alvarez in the lineup. So it goes to the same thing. Alvarez would have never looked better at the plate if he was sitting all the time in your warped scenario. Yeah, Ken, I am a dope, but you're wrong in this situation because whoever is not playing well, you want to be benching, right? You wanted to bench Alvarez 3 weeks ago. You wanted to bench Vientos when he was in a slump, right? Nimmo, you didn't want in the lineup. Don't put him in the lineup. You want Alonso out of the lineup, which is silly because that's not going to happen. Because those guys, it takes one game to get them going. Now, in Alonso's case, that hasn't been the case, right? Because Alonso hasn't carried a team all year. He's had one good game, and then he's come back the next day 0 for 4. I've seen Martinez get hot. I've seen Nimmo, Vientos, Winker, Alvarez get hot and carried his team for a few games or at least a week. If you want to complain about anybody, complain about Alonso, who should not be in the lineup. But guess what? There's always that one game that Alonso can have that can help you win a ball game. The same thing goes for JD Martinez. I agree. Alvarez was awful, but you wanted, in your scenario, you wanted Alvarez out of the lineup completely. How would Alvarez started to get going, hitting 3 home runs in 4 games if he wasn't in the lineup? These guys can't get out of their slump if they don't play. That's what you're not understanding. Now, I'm not telling you that JD Martinez deserves to play Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But he has not played since the weekend, last week. He hasn't started since last week. Play him today. Maybe he hits. If he doesn't look good at the plate, he's not in the game tomorrow, and he probably won't be on Sunday. But I'm going to tell you this. You will see him in a big spot late in the ball game if there's a lefty on the mound. And then in your wonderful scenario, you're going to have a cold bat who is struggling coming off the bench to hit in a big spot. Congratulations. Because that outcome is probably a lot worse than at least starting him, seeing a pitcher, playing an entire ball game, and he might get a big hit. I'm not saying he will. I know he's struggling. I know Winker's struggling. But why do you think? Yeah, Ken, because you continue to say the same thing, but yet you want, as soon as the guy's struggling, you want the guy benched completely. Guys can't get out of slump if they're not playing. Congratulations, but you continue to buy, right? If you don't think you're ever going to hit the lotto, you wouldn't play it, right? But you continue to play it every now and then. Well, you're giving JD Martinez an every now and then spot. The fact is, you want guys out of the lineup who's slumping, yet Alvarez wouldn't have been getting out of his slump if he wasn't playing. Vientos, you wanted to sit him 14 days in a row because he was 3 for 38. He wouldn't have gotten going. He wouldn't have got big hits against Philadelphia when he was in a massive slump. So the fact is, do I think JD Martinez is going to get going? Who the hell knows? You don't know and I don't know. You're going on past games, which is, of course, all we can go by. But I want JD Martinez to get going. He can't get going on the bench including Jesse Winker. And you're acting like Marte is on like a 7-game hitting streak when he has not played that well. He's played better than Martinez or Winker, but not that much better. So let's not act like we're leaving Marte out of the lineup and he's playing a hell of a lot better, which he's not. Yeah, I go on past years based on the team. And that's fine. Look, you want everybody to sit. Like, in your case, the whole Mets lineup should be sitting. Like, you might as well just bring up, DJ Stewart because he can take a walk. Like, you're just in it. Marte's not a better choice. Not today. Sorry, Marte has not been tremendously better where you can say, guarantee. If that's the case, I'd rather have Marte in right field than Winker because I don't trust Winker in the outfield better than I trust Marte. Now, I don't trust either of them in right field, but I'd rather have Marte because he has a cannon for an arm. And I like that arm in right field. Yeah, the Mets are desperate for wins. Congratulations. You've said something that everybody knows. It must be the hurricane in Florida treating you this way. The fact of the matter is, guys can't get out of a slump if you don't play him. I'm not saying to play Martinez 3 games straight. But if he goes 2 for 4, maybe gets an RBI, you're not going to play him tomorrow? Of course you will. You want to. Good. Wow, he looked like he has a pulse. So Marte ain't even a question tomorrow then because Martinez hit. No, we all want to Vogel back on. I never want to Vogel back on this team. I said it from the day they traded for him. That guy was a complete waste. Even though, if you really look at it, and the way people tell me, look at his numbers, he weren't that bad. No, he was. He wasn't the right guy for that spot. Wasn't right for this team. But we're going back to Vogelback. Who cares? He's not on this team. He's irrelevant. The fact is, you complain every single time when a guy's in a slump, they shouldn't be in a lineup. Alvarez got out of his slump. Why? Because he played. Vientos got out of his slump. Why? Because he played. Fuck it. Brandon Nimmo got out of his slump because he played. You wanted to play, and I remember this. You wanted Brandon Nimmo out of this lineup, and you wanted Tyrone Taylor in. Nimmo would have never got out of his slump, right? McNeil constantly played before Iglesias got here. McNeil started hitting. Why was he hitting? Why all of a sudden after the All-Star break he was hitting? Because he was playing. No, you can't bury him. You want to bury him, but this fucking guy is going to pinch hit in a big spot in the 7th inning or the 8th inning if there's a lefty on the mound. Because there's no better option. If you want to play Marte, fine, play Marte. But Martinez is going to be that first bat off the bench. I'm telling you that right now. He would be. He's going to be. So you want to ice cold JD Martinez, who's in a slump, batting in a big spot. In your scenario, you said you wanted to play, you can play Acuna at shortstop. Okay, that's fine. You want to DH Lindor. That's a possibility as well. You put Marte for Winker. All right, we have a conversation. But when there's a lefty on the mound, Martinez is probably going to be at bat. Yeah, well, Ken, you don't stop talking. You don't stop texting and commenting. So I'm going to keep talking when you keep on saying the same thing. Yeah, you are the biggest Nimmo fan. But you wanted to bench Nimmo, and Nimmo would have never got out of a slump if you benched him. Oh, okay, Ken. I know, Ken. Congratulations. I know you have to be a bad boy to actually say something, but that's okay. The fact of the matter is, you're wrong. And it's okay. You can just stay in Florida and wash away because you know for a fact that you're wrong. That's why you keep on talking. Because when you don't talk and you don't keep on commenting, you know you're wrong. No, I didn't start it. I'm talking about why Martinez should be in the lineup and why Mendoza is putting him in the lineup. Now, would I have had a different overall lineup? Probably. I would have questioned. I would have probably had a second thought about putting Martinez in the lineup. But in what I'm looking at is why is Mendoza putting him? Because it's irrelevant what I think or you think, because Mendoza makes the lineup. We all obviously know that, right? What I think Mendoza is trying to do, since Martinez has not played a lot over the last 2 weeks, is to say, all right, you sat down a lot. You've clearly been in the cage all the time, trying to figure out your swing, trying to get right. Put him in today. I'd be shocked if Martinez goes 0 for 4 today and doesn't look good, and Mendoza's going to put him in the lineup tomorrow or even Sunday. I think Mendoza's trying to get these two guys going in Winker and Martinez. That is it. That is the whole point of the conversation. Yeah, can I agree? I'm glad I'm not, because golf, that hurricane, Jesus Christ. I mean, hopefully you're okay and everybody else, but my God. All right, so the fact is, why Mendoza is doing that is what I'm thinking. I think he's trying to get those two guys going. That's probably the whole thought process for Mendoza. Yeah, just got to win too. No, okay, I didn't say they. You didn't say. I never said you were bad players. I said that we're having the conversation or the argument, whatever you want to call it, about two guys in the lineup who have been really struggling, specifically Martinez. Okay, JD Martinez is 36 years old. Okay. Yeah, okay. He never seemed this bad, but do we just automatically believe it's age or the guy can't get his swing right? It could be just that, right? We think about that all the time when it comes to any player, so who knows? No, Skull, and I agree with you. I don't trust JD Martinez coming out of the slump. But I'm not stupid enough to think that Mendoza is not trying to put these guys in the lineup, at least guys who haven't been in the lineup a lot, specifically JD Martinez, trying to get something out of them. Because you can't bench these guys and burying them on the bench, because these are your two guys that are going to be big parts of the late inning pinch hit situation if it comes up. Why do I want these guys in a big spot late in the ball game pinch hitting Winker and Martinez? Here's the other scenario. If you don't like Martinez and Winker in the line, think of it this way. There's a pretty good chance if they look bad in this game, late in the ball game, you can have either Acuna and Marte pitch hitting for those guys. So that's a scenario late in the game I'd rather have. Hopefully it doesn't come to that. Hopefully the Mets kick the Brewers' ass and we don't have to have this stupid conversation anymore. So, in this whole conversation, the Mets need to win the damn ball game. And it starts with Sean Manaea tonight. Right? Sean Manaea has been our ace. We need him to pitch his ass off today. Right? Other than that, the Mets offense needs to score early. Because I don't know if you guys heard, and I brought it up earlier in the stream, that Pat Murphy, the manager of the Brewers, talked about he's not going to play a lot of his starters the entire game. He's going to take guys out. Now, when that might be in the game, who knows? But I want the Mets to make that decision for him quickly. Quickly. And Ken might get his wish. If Montas comes out of the game after the third inning, you might see a lefty, or you might see another righty, and you might see somebody else in the ball game. But if the Mets score early, it makes the decision for the Brewers a lot easier. They're going to take Rhys Hoskins out, Willie Adames out. They're going to take the guys who are, Hoskins, he's played a whole season, but he's coming off a major knee injury, right? One step could end the season. Right? So you're not going to see the major bullpen arms coming out from the Brewers for the entire game. So the Mets have an opportunity here to make the decision for the Brewers rather quickly. I want it to be a laugher today, right? And you know what? It should. Manaea has pitched extremely well. Regardless of who the team is, Manaea has pitched well. He's been our ace. He's been our ace. Of course, we need some help. We need the Braves to lose. We need Arizona to lose. The Braves come up irrelevant as long as the Mets win, right? The Arizona is more of the key to the Mets making the playoff quicker than the Braves because of the tiebreaker. But we all agree the Mets need to win. Like that is no doubt. But God, man, can this freaking team score early? Get on the board early. Let Milwaukee think about their dinner reservation. I don't know. Just get them the hell out. Just get the most of them. Because again, this is not 10 years ago when you can have 40 guys on the roster after September and they're going to play all their minor leaguers. Right? They only got 28 guys on the roster. So some of their starters are going to remain in the ballgame. But what you want them to take the Adamises out, the Hoskins out. Maybe Churios will play since he's very young. But you don't want those three guys might come out of the bowl game because you don't want those guys getting hurt. They're the best players. So it's going to be very interesting. Again, the Mets put themselves in this spot, right? They lost that game on Tuesday very disgustingly. They had no life. They played scared, and Severino couldn't show up in a big game. Those three things scare the living hell out of me. That's why I don't want Monday to mean anything for the Mets. I can care less if they mean something for the Braves. I don't care about that. The worst case scenario I want going into Monday is the Mets need one game. That's probably the closest I go to be like, okay, we don't need to win 2 games. We need to win 1. But I'd rather need to win 0. And I think we all agree. We don't want Monday to matter for the Mets. And it's very simple. At the very least, take 2 out of 3. And you're going into Monday. You might be clinched a playoff berth if Arizona loses 2 out of 3. And then we can just enjoy the Monday, and maybe the Mets find a way to win and knock the Braves out of the playoffs, which would be, the cherry on top. The Mets make the playoffs and knock out the Braves, which would be wonderful because we understand this. The Mets are going to be playing some of their starters because of the 28-guy roster, even though they get an extra man because it's a doubleheader, which I'm assuming will be a pitcher. Because you want to bring up somebody that you're not really going to use on the postseason roster. You just want a guy to eat up innings for you. So we're about an hour and 15, 20, 25 minutes away. We're about, the game starts around a little after 8 o'clock. So we're about an hour and 30 minutes away, 35 minutes away until game time in Milwaukee. Chris is there, rooting us on, cheering on our boys in Milwaukee with, I'm very much assuming a lot of the Met fans. I know a few people who made the trip other than Chris. So people are going to Milwaukee, are going to be cheering on the Mets. Win the ball game. We got our best pitcher on the mound. We got our shortstop back in the lineup. That should give a little bit of a jolt to this team. I like that Vientos is batting second. It would be nice if Alonso has a pulse. That would be nice. I mean, that would help this lineup tremendously. Iglesias is batting fifth. It's a very interesting situation that Iglesias is batting fifth in between Alonso and Winker. Very interesting. But it's a lineup that Mendoza put together. We all know why Mendoza put Winker and Martinez in the lineup. He's trying to get those guys going. These guys are going to be very important to us going forward, especially in the postseason. Winker's going to be our biggest bat off the bench, and JD Martinez is going to start game 1 of a postseason. I'm going to tell you that right now. So we got to get these guys going. As much as we probably don't think these guys should be in the lineup, give them an opportunity to break out of it. Because best case scenario for us is if they break out of it, it's going to benefit us. And Ken, I agree with you. I like Iglesias in that 5th spot. I know a lot of people were talking about if Lindor comes back, put Iglesias in the 2-hole, which is not a bad option either because he's a contact guy, less of a strikeout guy. Vientos is a high strikeout guy, but Vientos had his best games when he's in the 2-hole. So it's kind of a rock and a hard place here. No, I would like Bader in the outfield, to be quite honest. I think his defense is extremely important. I honestly, if you really want to go crazy, I'd rather just put Taylor in right field and Bader in center field, to be quite honest. It's not more about Bader's bat. I just want Bader's glove in the center field, even though Taylor's perfectly fine in center field. But anybody you put in right field, Winker or Marte, scare the hell out of me. So in my best defense in the outfield, I'd rather have Nimmo in left, Bader in center, and Taylor in right. So I'd rather have that in a pretty decent big ballpark in the outfield. I agree, Ken. I 100% agree with that. But more about Bader with defense, because Bader hasn't really hit much either. He hasn't been any much better than Winker with the bat. So it's kind of a wash. But I'd rather have the better defensive player, because those guys are going to be at the bottom of the order anyway. So the guys who are not hitting are at the bottom of the order. So whoever combination you want to put in there, if you like it or not, are going to be at the bottom of the order. You know, Taylor has been our best fourth outfielder, and he's worked his way into a starting position. The reason why Bader hasn't played much is because of Tyrone Taylor, and I'm perfectly okay with it, because Taylor has proven to come up clutch in big spots offensively, and we know what he can do with the glove. So here we go, guys. Game 158, the Mets are a game up on the Braves, tied with the Diamondbacks, officially in the second wildcard spot as of 6:45 on a Friday. We know the scenarios. There's so many. You can put it on the board, and it looks like calculus, right? It looks weird. It's confusing. Win 2 out of 3. Diamondbacks lose 2 out of 3. Manuel, I am doing good. The Mets are in. The Mets sweep. Diamondbacks lose 1 game. They're in. The Mets sweep. Braves lose 2 out of 3. We're up 3 games. And nothing can be done. The Mets clinch. So there is scenarios this weekend, if you're still a little confused, the Mets to not have Monday matter for them. But I think the easier road is for the Diamondbacks to mess up. That is the easiest road for the Mets because of the tiebreaker. If the Mets and the Diamondbacks match their win totals or loss, if they both go 2 out of 3, obviously the Mets on Monday need 1 game. So Arizona is probably the easiest way for the Mets to get in. They're playing San Diego, obviously a really good team, but San Diego isn't really playing for much anymore. But in a crazy scenario, if the Padres get swept and the Mets sweep the Brewers, the Mets are actually tied for that number 1 wild card and do have the number 1 wild card based on the tiebreaker with the Padres, and all the Mets have to do is win 1 game on Monday, and they play their home games in the wild card series because they be the number 1 wild card. That's a crazy scenario, but it's still mathematically possible, so it's interesting to talk about. So, guys, we're ready. There's no better time for this team to wake the hell up and get out of their mental fart after that 1 game in the Brave series. Kick the Brewers' ass. The Brewers are not playing for nothing. They want to get quickly out of there as fast as possible so nobody gets hurt. Play your ball game. Play fundamentals. Don't make stupid mistakes. Play a fundamentally sound game. And I'm pretty confident the Mets will win. Don't make stupid mistakes. Don't give them a reason to get those competitive juices flowing. Because as an athlete, as a player, as soon as those juices are flowing, you want to win. They might feel like that the first couple of innings, but if the Mets put some runs on the board, they might, take a step back and be like, all right, we're in the playoffs. I don't want to get hurt. And then the Mets can roll. So we'll see if that's the case. We got Manaea on the mound. Montas on for the Brewers. Lindor is in the lineup. Let's win the ball game today, guys. I will be doing a post-game show whenever this game is over, whatever time it might be. I set it for 10:30. That's about 2 hours and 20 minutes after game time. We'll see how that goes. Obviously, as soon as the game is over, I will be live. Chris might pop in from Milwaukee we'll see. Again, he might be enjoying himself too much and no reason to pop on, enjoying himself. Let him do his thing, but he knows he's always welcome on the postgame. With that said, guys, enjoy the rest of your night. Enjoy the game. I'll see you on the postgame later tonight, hopefully talking about a Mets W. Thank you for watching the Amazing Mets pregame show. Have a good night. Let's go Mets, and I'll see you later tonight, guys. LGM.
Welcome to Talkin' Mets with Rob. Subscribe to the channel for all your New York Mets in-game live, pre-game, post-game, roundtable podcast, and all the breaking news for our New York Mets. Enjoy the show and let's go Mets. Welcome to Talkin' Mets with Rob. Subscribe.
Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life because the Mets